to make it less than 1 GB, and we have a successful record. Okay. Okay, I start my material. Okay. Can you hear me clearly, everybody?
Yeah, Dokter.
Yes, I
Okay,
can.
thank you. Okay, we continue the material about time series forecasting. In this first session today, we start with machine learning, where there are many approaches in machine learning, particularly in the modern and non-parametric approach, which is one of the famous one is a neural network. Okay, I just want to remind all of us that there is no tool which is right for everything, or in simply we can say there is no superior method which is always been the best for every data, for every condition. So I think there is no such kind of superior method. Therefore, we can cite the quote delivered by George Bock, the very famous statistician. He said that all models are wrong, but some are useful, right? I think we agree with this quote, because for one data, we can apply many model, we can apply many approach to get the insight, to get the prediction, to get the other things, which is will be used for, let's say, for making policy, for making decision and others. So this illustration is quite good. The tool actually it has many utilities, which it's mean if there is a tool that have so many or all function like in this picture, I think it is quite good. But I think there is no. But if there is or there are several methods who are work well for several condition, I think yes. But if it is for everything, it is not available. I think like yesterday when we analyze the data, we use time series regression, we employ ARIMA, we can also employ subset ARIMA, we can employ ARIMAX, and also there are several alternative approach possible to be done to analyze the same data. Therefore, in the science, particularly in statistics, we know very well about the comparison study. Yeah, we study about a certain data using several approach, and we analyze. And in addition, sometimes we also make study about simulation study. We generate certain process, and then we analyze using several methods, and we compare to get the more insights. And then today we learn the others methods belongs to machine learning, and also we apply to time series forecasting. If we see how the machine learning and statistics can be categorized, I think we can make it simple like this. We know about supervised learning and also unsupervised learning, and also in between we have semi supervised learning, and also there are some other approach like in robotics. They learn about something other else, which is not they have different approach. But we are in statistics, we typically have these two kind of analysis: supervised and unsupervised learning. Then we can see like if in our data we have so-called response or dependent variable or output variable or target variable or other term which is used in other field, then we can categorize them into supervised learning. So supervised learning is a method or approach where the learning is supervised by the value of true observation in response variable or dependent variable or target variable or output variable. Then in such kind of analysis, we know that there are, we can make categorization also in the kind of response. If the response is categorical, then we work on classification, right? And then if the response is continuous, then we have a regression. Of course, in classification and regression, we will do a prediction. And in a certain or a specific type of data, which is yeah, part of regression, if the, or it is not part, but I think similar, which is continuous, if the data is independent, or we can call it a cross-section data, we apply regression. But if we have time series observation, the data which is observed sequentially in unit time, then of course we apply time series, right? And also there is combination of cross section and time series, so-called panel data analysis. Okay, today we discuss about this regression in machine learning, and then we apply the method of regression in machine learning to analyze the time series data. How it can be? Yeah, we will have a look on the coming slide. Okay, this is supervised learning. So I repeat again, supervised learning means the learning process which is supervised by the value of response variable. Why? Because the response variable is the target, which is, we assume it is the true value, and then we make a prediction or forecasting, which is, it is an estimation, and we want to have the prediction or forecasting as close as the true observation, right? Or in other way, we can say the error close to zero. or if it is difficult close to zero, we want to have a smallest error, the as possible we can attain. Okay, in data analysis, sometimes we have the data which is not one of the variable or several of the variable. If we talk about several, so it's mean multivariate. Let's say if there is no one or more variable treat as response, so there is no response, we only have a variable, many variables, then we apply unsupervised learning, because typically in that many variable there are interdependency. Yeah, we learn a lot in multivariate analysis about interdependency. One kind of the unsupervised learnings is clustering method. There are many approach in clustering, like hierarchical clustering, agglomerative clustering, and then exclusive clustering, and then soft clustering like fuzzy clustering, something like that, and then density based clustering, which is depend on the mixture distribution and others. So like we have done in clustering, we do not have response variable, right? We only have variable. We have many variable which are correlated. Yeah, maybe some of them not have does not have significant correlation, but in the beginning we treat them as interdependent relationship. And then the other approach of unsupervised learning is dimensionality reduction, like principal component analysis, vector analysis, and other approach. Okay, the learning process in unsupervised learning means the learning process is not supervised by the so-called response variable, because there is no response variable there. Therefore, it is called unsupervised learning. Okay. And then what kind of neural network or support vector machine that we will learn today? Okay. Before we go further, this is the outline, yeah, background, motivation, and then we should know about the jargon or the term used in the methods, and then about architecture of neural network, supervised and unsupervised. Yeah, of course, in like in classification, it can be extended become semi-supervised learning if we combine, say, clustering before we apply classification. How it can be? Yeah, it is possible. In the current era, like in the big data era, if we have big data, such that if we run the code or we analyze the data, it will occupy whole the physical memory in our PC or our laptop. And then during the process, before it finish, the physical memory already fully occupied. Therefore, the iteration or the computation is terminated. So this is one of the challenge in analyzing big data. Therefore, there are some approach like, okay, we can split the data we can split the data, and then in every subset of the data we apply classification. In the way of we split the data, we can split them with the same proportion. For example, if we have a big data, we want to split become 5 groups, then we can choose randomly the member of every group, so the number in every group will be similar, or the proportion is similar from one group to the others. But it is not only in the way we split the data. We can also split the data by applying clustering analysis. For example, we apply clustering. Let's say we apply k-mean cluster. For example, k is equal to 5. And then from a k-mean cluster, we obtain the cluster 1 with its member, cluster 2 with its member until the cluster 5. So it is unsupervised, right? And then we can combine this unsupervised with classification like neural network or support vector machine. So this combined methods is called semi-supervised learning because it combines unsupervised and supervised approach. Okay, then specific to neural network, we have architecture about the input. If we want to select the optimal model or in model selection, the question is what is the input of the model, or what is the independent variable, or what is the predictor, or what is the regressor, whatever the term we use. Actually, we need to select the appropriate input to obtain accurate prediction. And then due to the architecture of neural network, we have a so-called neuron and hidden neuron. We need to determine the number of hidden neuron. We need also to determine which is the best or the optimal activation function. And then also pre-processing method. The pre-processing method can be like scaling the data, standardizing the data, other than like imputation if we have missing data, or trimming, or we eliminate the outlier or others, some approach in pre-processing. And then next we will employ this neural network for forecasting, and yeah, particularly today is for forecasting, and of course we can also apply for classification, but today we will talk about forecasting. And also I forget to write one more here. We also will learn about the support vector regression, which can also be employed for regression and also time series forecasting. Okay. Yeah, this is the development of neural network. Actually, it is started in 40s, and then yeah, in 90s, yeah, Rosenblatt worked a lot in non-parametric statistics, including non-parametric regression, like kernel regression and other, and one of them is neural network for regression. Rosenblatt worked a lot on that. And then there is also Minsky, Pepper, Kohonen, Verbos, and Rumelhart, Hilton, and William, which is we can see more detail here. Yeah, in 40s, the scientists develop electronic brain, and then the scientists learn from biology process about neural. There are neuron, dendrit, and others in the neural network from human or animal, yeah, particularly from human, and then they develop so-called perceptron, and then there is also so-called Adaline and XOR problem, yeah, and then in the late of 80s, it is developed a multi-layer perceptron or MLP with some learning procedures, so-called backpropagation, and also develop another learning so-called yeah, feed forward and others. And then in the beginning of 90s, it was developed support vector machine. Originally, it is for classification, and then afterward, it developed for regression, and the method so-called support vector regression. Actually, it was developed by Vladimir Pavnik, but actually the support vector machine, or in the beginning, it is not so-called SVM. It is also in 60 or 70, Vladimir Pavnik developed some mathematical as foundation for SVM, but it's become very popular in the 1992 until 1999, and so on and so forth. And now we are very frequently hear about deep learning. Yeah, actually, this deep neural network, it is the opposite of shallow learning. Yeah, the opposite of deep is shallow. If in the architecture of neural network we have more layer, we call it deep because the learning process get deeper and deeper, represented by the number of layer in the architecture of neural network. Okay, then this is some important reference. Yeah, of course they are cited by 1,000 paper because they are fundamental a paper about the method about SVM and neural network. Okay, you can search, download, and read afterward. Okay, what makes what does make the kind of neural network, support vector machine, and other non-parametric or modern machine learning become famous now? One of them is because there is non-linear relationship. Yeah, there is non-linearity in the data. Yeah, it's been non-linear relationship between variables. Yeah, between predictor to the response, and also there is possibility non-linear relationship between predictors. This non-linearity is not represented or is not captured in many classical statistical approach. Yeah, most of them is linear model, and then when they have a link function, they become generalized linear model, which is, yeah, it is typically non-linear. but one other approach to capture the nonlinearity using non-parametric approach is developed in the modern machine learning, like neural network, artificial neural network, support vector machine, random forest, and or in general decision tree based approach. And the recently is about the ensemble approach and others. Okay, this interest particularly obtain the big attention by Granger and Terasvirta in early of 90s. They developed the method to detect nonlinearity, which is I will give some more detail in the coming slides. And then also because there is advancing in hardware for computing, it means there is technology in the computer that supports the method like neural network such that it can compute much faster than before. Therefore, the attention to this method get more and more increase days by days because it is supported by the technology in the computer. Okay, and also there is other things. It is more relaxed in assumption. We know that in many statistical models, particularly in linear model, which is a parametric model, they have assumption, right? Which is in reality or in when we analyze real data, sometimes the assumption cannot be fulfilled, right? And then we make some treatment, like we make transformation, we do some approach to deal with assumption violation. And then this non-parametric model, they are more relaxed on assumption, so it is very good for like deploying the method in industry, like okay, in digital company and in a modern company, they apply automatization in like autonomous machine, autonomous car, autonomous others. It's mean if the model have assumption, sometimes it is or frequently it is avoided by the scientist or engineer who deploy the method in real industry. They prefer to have a method which is more relaxed on assumption in order to support their automatization. Okay, this is some application in pattern recognition, signal processing, process control, forecasting. This is one we will practice today, but forecasting. Yeah, this is the use of neural network for artificial intelligence. It support the artificial intelligence, and also it is applied in, yeah, of course, artificial intelligence applied in robotics and others, some autonomous device or machine, and also for data analytics or data analysis. Okay, actually neural network have architecture. This is example of architecture in neural network. This is just some of the architecture which is we can see in this link. We already put the link. If we click the link, you can learn more about that. Okay, this is, I think, one of the best website to learn about neural network. It gives illustration of the input, of the noisy input and others, and also recurrent, which is with this sign, and also it gives explanation like this. For example, feed forward neural network and perceptron. So we have to learn about some term. What is perceptron? Something like that. So we call this input, yeah, and then the yellow one input, and the orange node is output. So it has direct relationship from the input to the output, right? And then in the right side picture, the input do not relate directly to the output. The input connect to the so-called layer or hidden layer. The green one or green nodes is the node in the hidden layer. So the input connect to the hidden layer, and then the hidden layer connect to the output. So it is like the work of neuron in our body, right? How the neuron transfer the input, like temperature, it is cold, it is hot, it is warm. It transfer the information of temperature from, yeah, from our skin maybe to the neuron, and information is delivered to our brain, and then we think that it is hot, that the input is temperature uh, from our skin or our, yeah, I think our skin, yeah, and then the information is transferred until the brain, and the brain conclude that it is hot temperature. And what is the difference of feed forward neural network? Feed forward means the learning is transferred going forward. Yeah, because there is also back propagation. Back propagation means that the learning is transferred forward, and then it is validated back. So for so-called back propagation. Then what is different of feed-forward neural network and perceptron? Yeah. Neural network are often described as having layer where each layer consists of either input, yeah, this is layer, and the layer connect to the input, uh, the hidden and the output in parallel. A layer alone never has connection. In general, to adjacent layer are fully connected, and so on and so forth. So this website is quite good because it is uh, supported by or attached by the original paper discuss about this kind of term and also procedure, and about the others architecture. What is the difference of this feed forward neural network and the difference of radial basis function? It is same, the architecture is same. What make it different? What does make it different? So actually, feed forward neural network with radial basis function is same. Actually, radial basis function network is the feed forward neural network with the activation function, which is the activation function is radial basis function. So if the activation function is radial basis function, the architecture is called radial basis function. And then other architecture like this is recurrent. Recurrent means the information can be transferred forward, and also the information can be enter or re-enter to that node. What kind of it? It is like in when we learn about moving average model yesterday. Yeah, when we apply autoregressive model, we have a residual, and then the residual is still not random. The residuals have a pattern which follow the moving average process. Therefore, there is a time lag in the residual which re-entering the model. So the model like this radial basis function or feed forward neural network is similar like in autoregressive model. But if we want to represent the moving average or the mixture of autoregressive and moving average, it is better to employ so-called recurrent neural network. So recurrent means the, let's say, from the input to the node in the first hidden layer, it result output here, but the output it re-enter the node, or it can also re-enter other node. Therefore, it is called recurrent. And in time series, it is like we have a moving average process or ARIMA, because in ARIMA we have moving average component, right? Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, I will be back to my slide. You can learn further here. You can learn further from the website. Okay, this is some example of architecture, and we need to know about the term used in neural network. Okay, so yeah, people from computer science, they like to use term feature, right? In statistics, we commonly use variables, and then inputs, it is independent variable, and then the output is the predicted value, and target or training values is dependent variable or response variable. Yeah, I think error and residual is same. Actually, error is the estimate of error is residual. And then in neural network, we have some training, learning, adaptation. In statistics, it is analog to estimation. And then pattern or training pairs. So this is the pairs of target and input. So in statistics, we say observation. Observation, it includes the response variable, predictor variable for every unit observation. Or in other field, they sometimes they use instance or example. Yeah, something like that. And in neural network, we have weights. It is analog with parameter estimates or estimator, or more specifically, estimate of parameter of coefficient. And then supervised learning. Yeah, it is I learned. I explained before. This is procedure to procedure which is supervised by response variable. It can be regression if we have continuous response variable, or we have classification if we have categorical response variable, or one of the classification method is discriminant. And then unsupervised learning, yeah, it can be clustering, it can be data dimensional reduction. Yeah, but people in neural network, they sometimes they use the term which is not directly analog or similar to we use in statistics, like this adaptive vector quantization, like AVQ. This is actually for cluster analysis. So we can use a neural network for clustering using adaptive vector quantization. And in neural network also they use term generalization. In statistics we use interpolation or extrapolation in statistics and mathematics. Okay, some of this term is represented by the picture in the left, which is input node is the predictor, and then the output node is the predicted value, and then the predicted value will be compared with the target or the observation. Yeah, and then in this connection there is, yeah, weight is here, this coefficient. And then there is should be, yeah, activation function. It is not written yet. Activation function is function used in the node, the calculation used in the node using activation function. Okay, I go to the next slide. We can illustrate the architecture in neural network with we are familiar with, like regression, for example, like this. If we have input or independent variable or predictor X, yeah, and then we want to predict, then we have model Y hat. Y hat is beta multiplied by X, right? of course, we need to estimate beta. So if we have beta hat, then we will have y hat, right? And then the predicted value will be compared with the target or dependent variable. This is very simple linear regression. If we have more independent variable, which is now we have three, x1, x2, and x3, then we have coefficient for each input, which is beta 1 multiplied by x1, and then beta 2 multiplied by x2, beta 3 multiplied by x3, and then we calculate the predicted value using activation function. This is the symbol of activation function. It can be linear. Here is linear, straight line. The activation function is linear, or we use like this as is a sigmoid activation function. Yeah. Then the predict value is compared with target or dependent variable. We can write like this. If we have 4 inputs x1 until x4 and we have corresponding coefficient beta 1 until beta 4, if we use a linear activation function, so here in the magenta field node, if we have linear activation function, so we can write the formula like this: y is equal to beta 0. So I'm sorry, we need to add one intercept here, beta 0. So there is beta 0, and then there is a row come here, and then beta 1 x1, beta 2 x2 until beta 4 x4. If we have linear activation function, or typically we write like this using straight line, or we have sigmoid or logistic function, typically we write like this as sigmoid. It means we have a formula like this. So y here is equal to 1 over 1 plus exponent of minus linear model. So it is like the linear model in the first formula is put in the exponential component here. So we can put the linear activation function to the exponential component here. And also there is other activation function, so-called tang hyperbolic. Yeah, the tangent hyperbolic. Or we can write the activation function like this. Yeah. Okay, next. More detail or more complex, I'm sorry. Here we have no hidden layer, because from the input node, it connect directly to the output node. And then now we add so-called hidden layer. Okay. So therefore the model becomes, okay, y is equal to, let beta 0, sorry, we have to add beta 0 here, beta 0, the row come into this output node. Beta 0 plus beta 1 F1 H. H mean hidden layer. Yeah, we typically use the superscript H for hidden layer. Okay, so it is beta 1 multiplied by first hidden layer, the function in the first hidden layer, plus beta 2 multiplied by the function or activation function in the second neuron, second node, until the third one. So actually this output have the formula like this, where the activation function in each node, let's say we have the same activation function, all are use logistic sigmoid activation function for every node we employ. Therefore, for every F1 and then F2 and then F3 in the hidden layer, we have this logistic sigmoid activation function. So we just put this function here, we put this function here, and then we put this function in the last part. Then the next, our task is to find the estimate of beta 0 head, beta 1 head, beta 2 head, beta 3 head, as well as the small b I, because we have I is 1 to 3 because we have 3 neuron, beta, small beta head, and then W head until W head for the 4 input. Okay, this is the architecture and the mathematical formula for neural network. Particularly, this is for multi-layer perceptron. Okay, this is so-called multi-layer perceptron. So because we have multi-layer, so we can also add more layer here. So we have single layer, single hidden layer, or we have 2 hidden layer. We can have 3 hidden layer, or we can have many hidden layer. If we have many hidden layer, we call it as deep learning. But it is deep learning in a multi-layer perceptron, right? Because we also have deep learning in convolutional neural network or CNN. I'm sorry, I do not put the CNN convolutional neural network in my slide, but it is referred to so-called deep learning. We have so-called the kernel matrix and others. You can learn further about that. Okay, this multi-layer perceptron can be employed to make prediction in regression, time series modeling and forecasting, classification. In this today's workshop, we use feed-forward neural network. See, we have so many architecture here. If you go to the website, there are so many extended model in or architecture. You can learn further. But today we will learn about feed-forward neural network. Okay, it is explained in the previous slide. We can see this feed-forward neural network as a non-linear regression. Why? We can consider this mathematics model for feed-forward neural network is nonlinear regression, we go back to the previous slide. Yeah. If we see this formula, is it linear or nonlinear? Yeah, of course it is nonlinear, because say if we have a linear activation function, if we put linear activation function here, so of course our neural network is linear regression. But when we use the logistic sigmoid or even the tangent hyperbolic activation function, so of course it become nonlinear, because this is nonlinear function. If we substitute to the first formula, then it cannot be linearized. Yeah, we cannot make it linear. Therefore, it is nonlinear regression. If we see that the mathematical model is nonlinear, but if we can make it linear or we linearize it, then the model still belong to the linear model. But in this case, the sigmoid activation function, if we substitute the model, it cannot be linearized. So it belong to the non-linear regression. And also if we apply to a categorical response for classification, it will be, yeah, like in discriminant analysis, logistic regression, and so on and so forth. We use so-called softmax activation function, but we do not discuss in our workshop today because we focus on the time series forecasting. So if we have more time or in others occasion, in it is whether it is workshop or others, we can discuss more about the classification, and then the activation function using softmax and also other so-called ReLU and others activation function. Okay, this feed-forward neural network can also be considered as non-linear autoregressive process, non-linear autoregressive order P model. Yeah, yesterday we learned about autoregressive, moving average, and ARIMA. If we assign the input as the lag value of time series data, so please pay attention to this input. The input is not like before, like predictor like this. It is not predictor 1, predictor 2 until predictor 4 like this. No, it is not, but it is the time lag. If we have time series denote as YT, then we can assign its time lag as the input. So this is the observation at time lag 1, at time lag 2 until at time lag P. Therefore, we can consider this model as nonlinear autoregressive model with order P. Why it is nonlinear? Yeah, because let's see, if we write the mathematics formula for this model, we can see that in the activation function f, which is the input is the lag, the activation function can be nonlinear, like logistic sigmoid or tangent hyperbolic. So if the activation function is not linear, Then we have nonlinear autoregressive model. Okay, I think it is uh, clearly understood. Or maybe you have question. Okay, okay. If you have question, please raise hand or interrupt me. Then I will stop and I will discuss or answer your question before I go further for the material. Do you have questions so far? Okay, okay. Actually, the say multi-layer perceptron, we can see it as hybrid approach. The hybrid is combination. Combination of what? The combination of supervised and unsupervised learning. How it can be? Say, if we have input predictor 1 until predictor 4, and it connect to the hidden layer, say, this hidden layer, if we calculate the path from input until the hidden layer or in the area of green dash line here, it is actually unsupervised. It is unsupervised layer. Why? Because there is no observation here. So it means there is no uh, response variable here. It is not available. But we have the activation function here, which is calculated from the input with some weight. So we consider this as unsupervised layer. Okay, it is like in principal component regression, right? In principal component regression, we firstly create the principal component from predictor, right? When we create principal component, we do not involve the response variable. We only consider the predictors, and then we create the principal component, right? And then the principal component is or are regress with the response. So it is called principal component regression. So it is like this as well. From the input, we create or we calculate the value in the node in the hidden layer using activation function. So it is similar to the principal component. And then the value in hit in the node in the hidden layer as predictor for the output. So like in principal component regression, the principal component become the predictor of the response variable. Yeah. So from the path from hidden layer to the output or in the area of red dash line, this is like regression, of course, because the response is observed. So there are observation here. So when we combine this, it is like hybrid, the combination of supervised and unsupervised learning. Okay, I think it's clear. Okay, then we need to have a model building strategy. how to choose or how to create the architecture of the neural network. So we need to follow one of these strategy. First, we need to test the time series whether it only follow linear process or it follows non-linear process. We use a linearity test. There are some of linearity tests like Terras-Virta test, White test, Hubert test, and others. So in this case, it is called neglected nonlinearity. This is the principle of the test, linearity test. They use the principle of neglected nonlinearity. You can learn further from the paper I show in the next slide. Okay, then if the linearity is rejected, so of course it is non-linear, consider a small number of alternative parametric model and or non-parametric model. Okay, and then this model should be estimated in sample and then compare with the prediction in out sample. Or we can write like this. Next. This is some illustration of non-linearity concept. So actually in the second bottom graphs, it is non-linear time series. It is simulation data. And the data is simulated from non-linear process, and it look like in these graphs. And also in the left side, this is for classification, not time series. There is also non-linearity relationship between, say, predictor 1 and predictor 2. So the horizontal axis and vertical axis is the predictors. And then we make scatter plots. And then we make a different color for every value in categorical response. Say blue for categorical 1 and red for categorical 2. And then we can see clearly that actually categorical or class 1 and class 2 have non-linearity relationship. And also in others two graphs, it shows some non-linearity. Okay, this is some other summary about statistic. And now with the popularity of data science, there is also a term so-called predictive analytics. Predictive analytics, right? So this is some of the similar and different of statistic and so-called predictive analytic, because predictive analytic commonly use or employ non-parametric algorithm, and the statistic, yeah, most of them is parametric. Of course, some of them also non-parametrics. And in many model in statistics is typically linear, and in non-parametric model they are developed to capture the non-linearity within the data. And then in statistics, in particularly when we emphasize or consider the interpretability of analysis. So we have model and then we want to interpret the model. So we need to consider what kind of model we employ. and also what are the variable we choose, because at the end we want to make interpretation. So it should be want to prove a theory or uh, want to find the what so called if we want to draw the conclusion which is maybe not same as in the theory, like in counter example, yeah. We develop the model or we analyze using the model that follows a theory such that we can interpret to confirm the theory, or maybe the theory does not work for the data. And then the other way around, in predictive analytics, we consider more on data driven, where the data is king. What is the difference? The model is king and the data is king. So in the data driven approach, we start from the data, whatever the data, whatever the feature, whatever the variable. Particularly in the big data eras, we have so many variable. Then from that so many variable, we want to get the insight. We make exploration, data exploration, and then we have some information about the relationship, about the correlation and others. And then from that insight, from that pattern or relationship, we want to get more or deeper insight. And this insight, we do not need to test. Let's say we have the null hypothesis, we have the alternative hypothesis. No, it is not like that. So whatever from the data, we want to get the insight, and then the insight can be used to further analysis. But in the model is king, we have the null hypothesis from the chosen variable, and then we make analysis, we make inference, we draw conclusion, and then we make interpretation. So these two perspective or these two way how to analyze this data. We start from the theory driven or data driven, and many non-parametric machine learning, they are belong to data driven approach. Yeah, because when we select feature and other, we can use any data or all the data without considering the predefined theory. Okay. The next question are, if we employ neural network, the question is, if we have node in the input, okay, this is as many as the number of input, and we have the hidden layer. The question is, how many nodes in the hidden layer? One hidden layer, one node, two node, three node, 10 node, 20, 100. This is the question. How many nodes in the hidden layer? So we need to determine the number of nodes in the hidden layer, or we should have several scenario with some certain value of number of node, and then we can try each of the number of node and we choose the best model. Okay, the next is, what is the input? So it is feature selection. If we have many input, are all the input necessary to be put in the model, or we need to select only relevant predictor. So this is also the issue. The issue is like variable selection, or another term is a feature selection. The next question is, do we need a pre-process method? Let's say the data in the predictor, they have different scale. For example, in thousands, in hundreds, in millions. Some of them may have a different scale. Do we need pre-processing? Yeah, the question is, we yes or no, which is better? Yeah. And then next is, what is the activation function in the hidden and output? So we need to determine the activation function here, which is linear, logistic sigmoid, or Tangen hyperbolics, or if it is in classification, there is softmax, there is ReLU, and others. And then what is, or what are the activation function in the node in the hidden layer? This is the question. These four questions need to be studied further, or need to be researched in order to optimize the model in neural network, or so-called model selection. And also, if we employ neural network for time series forecasting, actually the question is same, but we need to maybe make more priority to, let's say, if it is classification, maybe node, number of node becomes one of the important thing in the first rank. If we employ for time series forecasting, the input selection or feature selection may be in the first priority. Yeah, it is not absolute priority, but I mean, based on our experience, the input priority is very important. Maybe we can put in the first priority there. Because what? Because if we have single time series, in order to have input here, we need more. Let's say we need more than one node here. So what are the variable? Because we only have one variable in time series, in univariate time series. So let's say the input can be in the time lag of the time series variable. And the question is, which lag, right? Okay, I think in the next 10 minutes, we have a break. I will finish this slide. This is there are many packages in R for neural network. Two of them are neural net in neural net library, and function nnet in nnet library. Okay, we will use this package and function in our exercise. And also it is available in SPSS. Okay, next. After the break, we try to simulate this data following a star model with time lag 7, with order 1 time lag 7 here. If we generate the data, it will appear like this. Of course, it is not always like this, because we have random error here. The error is random. If I generate my error and you generate your error, of course it is not same. Otherwise, if we set the set seed, we have the same seed, then we'll produce the same value. And then I plot the autocorrelation function, partial autocorrelation function. It look like this. It is actually in lag 7. It significant 7, 14, yeah, 21. It is the multiplication of 7, because in lag 7 is the lag that affect the output. Okay, this is the code. Actually, I already upload the code in the drive, but I put in the slide. And also we can make a lag plot from data at time t with it lag 1, with it lag 2, lag 3 until this is 12. Actually, we can make more. Let's see. In the lag 7, there is non-linearity pattern. Why? Because we generate the data following a star 7, which is lag 7 is the input of this generated process. Therefore, at lag 7, it shows non-linearity. So it means actually this time series contain non-linearity component. But of course, it is difficult for us to differentiate by our eyes, which is it is linear or non-linear. Yeah. So of course we need to test. We need to test the non-linearity. Okay, this is the thing we need to consider when using a neural network. What is the input? The input we make study including lag 7 and without including lag 7, and we try the number of neuron 1, 2, 3 and so on until 15. We try to different activation function, logistic sigmoid and tangent hyperbolic, and we also apply pre-processing, which is none. There is no pre-processing. And then pre-processing using standardization, normalize and adjusted normalize. And we want to answer this question. Actually, this is the result. If we, without including lag 7, the root mean square error is high. But if we include lag 7, the root mean square error low. So it's mean the lag 7 is a relevant feature that are able to reduce the error in prediction. Yeah. And also if we number of neuron. So if we have number of neuron 1, the root mean square error is high. When we increase become 2, the root mean square error decrease until certain condition, let's say 5. Until 5 neuron, it decrease, the error decrease, and then afterward increase. So actually we need to choose the number of neuron is 5. With combination of activation function. Yeah. Yeah, and then this is for pre-processing data with adjusted normalized, and standardized. So the normalized pre-processed data, if we have neuron greater than 5, the root mean square error increase. So we also have study. You can download this paper. This is our work with, yeah, this is Pak Suhartono and Pak Nofri, this is our colleague in Department of Statistics, ITS. We make this design of experiment to optimize architecture of deep learning for nonlinear time series. Actually, this is rather similar like this study. Okay. And then this is the summary. The important thing is how to determine the input. If it is unified time series, we need to choose which lag which is appropriate as our input. And then many neuron, if we increase the number of neuron, it is not always increase the accuracy. It can, after certain number of neuron, it can make the accuracy forecasting be worse. Yeah. Okay, this is conclusion same. This is some paper. This is the hybrid, the combination. We can make the combination of individual method, like we learn about ARIMA, ARIMAC, time series regression. There are many others, exponential smoothing, whole winter, fuzzy approach, and others. There are many. If it is individual, is combined together, it become hybrid. So we can combine Winters model and ARIMA, Winters model and neural network, and others combination. Okay, there's also the singular spectrum analysis SSA, which is this is recently popular now because it can accommodate the mix of seasonality. If we have like for example inflation is calculated from consumer price index, and then consumer price index is index that combine many goods and service. Yeah, let's say we focus on goods, good for food like rice, bean, and other food plant. They have a seasonal period, yeah, for harvesting, and then there are others external effect that can cause the seasonality of each commodity different. But when we calculate consumer price index, they are combined together. So it's mean in consumer price index, and then later on used to compute the inflation, there are mixture of seasonality length, right? Then this is one of the advantage in singular spectrum analysis, that it can decompose that mixture of seasonality into components. So this is about SSA. So you can learn further. This is some of reference. This is the reference I show that we make study about performance of non-linearity test. This is Ramsey test, White test, and Terasvirta test. You can download this paper. And we conclude that by our simulation study that Terasvirta have the highest power. Yeah. And also it is sensitive to the presence of outlier in the linear model. And these are some of our paper about machine learning. You can have a look afterward. Okay, I think it's time for a break. Yeah, it's correct. It's time for break. Okay, Marcelia.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dedi, for the first session. Before break, for all participants, please turn on your camera because we will have a documentation session. Okay, once more, if there is no connection problem, please turn on your camera because we will have a documentation session. Okay, it's okay if there's connection problem. We'll start to take a picture. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
For all
How long
participants,
we have a break?
yes, we will break until 10 a.m. in Indonesian time.
Okay.
About 30 minutes. For all participants, please don't leave the Zoom meeting and come back at 9:50 AM in Indonesian time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcelia. After the break, we exercise using our code. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. See you in the next 25 minutes. Yeah.
Dokter.